Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today's Family and Friends Vignettes dies, with those and the Glimmer of the Month from Spellbinders and Picnic Floral Simon Says Stamp embossing folder, we're going to make a very sweet little Mother's Day card for my dear mother. So I have a piece of vellum that I embossed using the embossing folder. It's just a good way to get some texture in the background, but very soft and pretty. And then I've already hot foiled a whole bunch of the sentiments and the word mum out of the, you get mum, mom and dad out of the glimmer. So I've hot foiled all of those and die cut the sentiments out, which you get a die that will die cut all the sentiments in one pass. So that's so easy, so much easier. So for the little, like the main topper, I guess, there is this adorable little dinosaur that I guess you could make into a boy or a girl. In this case, I'm going to make her into a little girl because it's obviously for a Mother's Day card. And she has a little tutu that I think is just the sweetest thing. So the dinosaur itself is very simple to put together. There's the spikes that go... There's an embossed line on the piece that sits just behind her main body, and then the piece that creates the second arm is goes on top, and just it's very simple to put together. And again, there's embossed lines for that. For her eye, I just used a piece of tape at the back of the main body and put a piece of black. I recut it so that I got a black eye, which I put in there, and then added her little outfit. It's that simple. So for the main sort of vignette part of the die set, there's these two pieces. One that is a plain inner piece that will just sit on top of a sort of more decorative panel, and that's got almost like a dotted stitch line around the outside. So very pretty. You could layer this up, you could add lots of dimension if you wanted to. So once I had that, that's going to go on top of my vellum, and I'm using some wet adhesive to add this to the vellum piece. Wet adhesive for me with things like vellum, and also well, not so much with the vellum, but the fact that it's embossed means that there's lots of bumpies on there. So wet adhesive just sticks a bit better than a foam adhesive would, although I am going to use foam later on for the sentiments. But it sometimes adheres better, so it's just something to think about when you're adhering, even if it's just on plain cardstock. If it's an embossed piece, is how how strong an adhesive you've got, basically. So for the little dinosaur, I decided to pop her up, and I think these are some scrapbook adhesive pop dot foam dot things, squares, and they are actually very sticky. So if you wanted to use that as an adhesive, being a stronger adhesive, that would be probably quite good on the vellum. Now the thing to remember about vellum is that when we go to stick this main piece with all the sentiment and dinosaur onto the card base, I'm only going to put adhesive where these pieces are, and you'll see that later on, because vellum tends to want to show all the glue and adhesive that you use behind it. You will see it. So that's something else just to bear in mind if you've never used vellum. Vellum's a great added I guess it's not, I suppose it's a cardstock kind of thing, paper maybe, but it's a really good thing to use, and it gives you this really soft look to different projects and things, depending what you're doing. But I always forget about vellum, so when I realized this, when I made this, I was really chuffed that I remembered it, and also embossing it gives it that sort of what's that there was like an art thing that we used to do back in the day, where you would dry emboss like different patterns into vellum, and you'd get all these like CDs and programs and things that you could then download the sort of patterns for them, or the images for them, and then you could almost like trace them onto the vellum, and you just used to create, I can't remember what it's called now. Is it Pergamo? I don't know. Anyway, my old brain doesn't understand that anymore. It doesn't remember. So while I was waffling, I got some thin foam strips on the back of each of the sentiments, and I have these in I arranged them in a particular order, so that's why I've sort of kept them in that order while I was doing the getting the foam ready on them. There's so many in there that you can use one or use however many I've used here. So there's lots of things you can do. So for the word mum, I'm going to put that onto the blue cardstock where the little dinosaur is. I think that's just sort of, it made sense in my head at least, that's where I wanted the word mum. And then each of the sentiments I'm going to layer up, just sort of beneath that, somewhat centered. If anybody's been here long enough, you know me and straight lines and centering things are not particularly good, and it gets worse the older you get, just FYI. But it's I thought this was a nice way to to get the sentiments on here, just in a nice sort of almost like a cluster of them below the word mum. So it's like, right, mum, here's all the things. Now, Mother's Day is actually tomorrow when I'm doing this voiceover, so she would have already had her card by then. But I do have a Father's Day one that I'm going to be doing soon as well, so you should see that shortly. So Dad, don't watch it, and Mum, don't let Dad watch it. So otherwise it'll spoil it. But I wanted to do both these die sets, the small and large, the large, and the Glimmer of the Month for March 25 from Spellbinders lend themselves to Mother's Day, Father's Day, sort of inspired projects. So I wanted to share the Mother's Day and the Father's Day one. I'm very blessed that I still have both of them with me. So I know that's not the case for everybody. So just adding my sentiments somewhat straight, like I say. I'm kind of using the grid on my media mat. This is a Tim Holtz glass media mat. Ish. It wasn't perfectly done, but it just gave me an idea. And also once I got my eye in with the first one, I could kind of judge the gaps between each one, and then I just had to somewhat center it in the vellum piece as well. So so just getting them in there. So they're not lined up with themselves because they're all different lengths, but they're somewhat in that sort of clustered look, and I really like how this turned out. So that's the main panel. So all we have to do is pop this onto the card base. The card base is a pink, like a pale pink, I think it's cotton candy, and I think it came in one of the Simon Says Stamp card kits as a card base with a matching envelope. So, which I could use as the matching envelope for Mum. So anyway, I digress. So because we've got vellum, and that does show up all the adhesive in the world, it's very difficult to sort of not have it show up. So where we've got the blue panel, or topper if you like, is where I'm adding the adhesive at the backs, because you can see through the vellum. And then I will also add some to where the block of sentiments are. Now I know there's a gap between each sentiment, but to be fair, that's such a tiny gap you won't see that. So you can see I'm sort of doing like a block of that adhesive behind there, rather than trying to go on each individual strip, sentiment strip. And honestly, you can't see it. So it's just something to bear in mind, because vellum is, like I say, see-through-ish. So the adhesive does show through there quite, like, obviously. even though some of the adhesives out there will dry clear, or like the dry adhesives here, like I'm using, they are clear. You can still see them. So, and this is enough to hold it on the card. You don't need anything else. It honestly looks really pretty, actually. I was really chuffed with how it turned out. So there you go, guys. That's our Mother's Day card for this year. And I think that dinosaur is just the cutest. I am a bit obsessed with dinosaurs and dragons. Yes, I know I'm however many years old and I still obsess about them, but I do. I'm like a big kid, really. But I just thought this was really pretty. And the purple foil is what you get in the kit as well. So for the glimmer. So I hope you've enjoyed this, guys, and I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.